Welcome into Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. We're starting this video out with a question because the quarterback topic keeps getting brought up. How should the Steelers find their next QB1? Do you think it should be a trade? Should they draft a guy, or should they pick someone up in free agency? Go to the comments right now. Type TQB if you like the trade idea. Type DQB for draft, or type FAQB if you think we should go with someone in free agency. All right, guys, so we've got some Steelers news and rumors to discuss today. Some interesting comments from a player you're very familiar with. Today, we're going to be talking about Najee Harris and his maybe want for Deshaun Watson. We're also going to touch on 5 players who could possibly get cut during this offseason in order to save Pittsburgh some money. And lastly, Mike Munchak, could he be reunited in Pittsburgh? Before we get into this, I do want to tell you guys, today is my last day at Chat Sports. Sadly, I love you guys so much. I appreciate all of the videos you have watched of ours over the season. The Steelers videos are not stopping, though. I promise you guys this. So please make sure you are subscribed to our channel. We've got some great hosts here over at Chat Sports. Thomas, Mott, a lot of other guys. People are going to be jumping on. So even though I will not be here anymore, there's going to be plenty of Steelers news and rumors going around. That's youtube.com/Steelers TV. And thank you all for watching us over this year. All right, but enough of that. Let's talk Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson headed to Pittsburgh. Najee Harris mentioned him along with Jimmy Garapolo and Aaron Rodgers as Big Ben replacements. Now, he most likely will get traded if these legal issues get resolved. We've talked about this. It'll also cost the Steelers a lot of money and a lot of draft picks and a lot of capital just in general. Now, the Deshaun Watson topic, unfortunately, we really just don't know what's going to happen. But here's what Najee Harris had to say about the next quarterback in Pittsburgh. He said, "There's names that pass my mind. Deshaun Watson's always in there. Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, I don't know how far he is coming close to retirement, but he's somebody I think too. Even guys like if we get Jimmy Garapolo, I like him too." All right, so let's just go back to Watson for a second. I would be surprised if Deshaun Watson plays in 2022. We haven't heard many positive signs leading us to believe that he's going to play. Now, reports are saying that his deposition is set to start late February. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really know how long all of that takes, but the legal stuff has to get resolved if Watson's going to be in the NFL. So you have to think about the timetable of that too. How long is the whole deposition stuff going to take? Then if they do decide, yes, he can play in the league, then there's got to be a trade that happens. We could be looking at a little while before we even hear any Deshaun Watson news. But, taking the stuff off the field aside for a sec, what he's done on the field is clearly impressive, and any team would want him if he was cleared and able to play in the league. In 2020, obviously he didn't play in 2021, but in 2020 he had almost 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And, just the past 4 years that we've seen Watson play, they've all been very impressive. He is a top tier quarterback, probably top 3 in the league. So it's going to cost a lot of money, and the team is going to want to, or the Houston Texans are going to want to get a lot in return. So we came up with a mock trade. Now, this is if Watson is good to go. I don't think this is smart if the legal stuff isn't resolved, but here's the mock trade for Watson. The Steelers would receive Deshaun Watson, and they would receive a 2022 5th-round pick. Now, in return, the Steelers would have to give the Texans a 2022 and 2023 first-round pick. They'd also give up Deontay Johnson and a 2022 and 2023 third-round pick. So the Steelers would have to give up a lot to get Watson. It's not going to be cheap. We know this. So I wanted to give you guys what I think would be a realistic trade. So I'll ask you guys this. Looking at what we wrote down, would you make this trade for Deshaun Watson? Obviously, in the case that he is good to go in the league. If you like it, type Y for yes. If not, you can go to the comments and type N for no. All right, we are now going to move into players that the Steelers could perhaps cut during the offseason. This isn't just based upon how they've played this season. It's really also about how they could save some money. So these are 5 guys that we should look out for as the offseason continues. First guy, Joe Schobert. If the Steelers were to cut him, they would save $7.834 million. This is a pretty good chunk of change for Schobert. Now, do I think this is smart? I do think that the offensive line, not offensive line. I do think that the linebacker area does need help. Now, clearly, TJ Watt standing out the best on this depth chart. Joe Schobert was kind of up and down, I'd say. Alex Highsmith, we saw a lot out of. Devin Bush struggled at the beginning of the year, then started to improve a little bit. But you look at just what Schobert did in 2021. He had 112 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 0 fumble recoveries, and 0 sacks. He is good. He's a big guy that I think is clearly a good fit in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, I don't know if he's worth keeping just with where Pittsburgh's at and them needing to save some cap space. Now, Devin Bush, as we said, also struggled. So then I start to think about maybe it's one of these guys. Maybe you just pick one to get rid of. So if you had to pick one linebacker to keep, who are you keeping? Are you keeping Joe Schobert or are you keeping Devin Bush? Go to the comments right now and type JS if you'd like Schobert back in Pittsburgh, or type DB for Devin Bush. All right, guys, now it might be the offseason, but we've got a really cool deal to tell you about if you want to rep the Pittsburgh Steelers all summer long, spring long, all year long. They've got this cool hat shirt combo. It's 25% off right now if you guys go to chatsports.com/Steelers combo. I love this because it's pretty much the price of one for 2 different things. They're cool. They're licensed gear, Steel City football. The sizes are running out though. So if you guys do want to hop on this, make sure you go check it out today because sizes are very few. That's chatsports.com/Steelers combo to get 25% off the shirt and hat combo. All right, now we're moving into the offensive line. Zach Banner, a guy on this list who would save the Steelers $5 million if he were to get cut. Now, Zach Banner, if you remember, was on IR for a lot of the season in 2021, finally kind of came back. And will he be, significant to this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line? I think maybe. At the same time, this O-line needs help. Kendrick Green, he's struggled a bit. Let's be honest. A lot of rookies on here. Dan Moore Jr. Now we do have some free agents, Takuma Okorafor and Trey Turner. They are hitting free agency this offseason. So I think that though we saw some improvement at the end from this offensive line, it's got to be reconstructed. If that's rookies in the draft, I'm not sure. Or if that's trades, I do think that they would be okay kind of regrouping the whole thing. But first, I'm asking you guys this. How would you grade the Steelers offensive line in 2021? We're going back to school. Grade this A, B, C, D, or F. Think about them as a unit, as a whole. How would you grade the offensive line? All right, another name we are adding on here is Derek Watt, brother of TJ Watt. Could the Steelers do this? Derek Watt would save the Steelers $2.75 million. Is that a ton? No, but is Derek Watt doing a lot? Also not really. I do think that it would make sense financially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But do you really want to make TJ Watt upset? I mean, he's your best player on the team. I don't know if you want to start that battle. But then again, it is a harsh business. And I think TJ Watt would understand if the Pittsburgh Steelers had to go that route. I don't imagine them doing this, though, just because it's not as significant as, like we said, a $5 million, $7 million savings. But again, how much work has Derek Watt done? They don't use him a ton, which is honestly surprising. I think that they actually should give him more of a chance. But TJ Watt is going to have to maybe give his thoughts on that if Derek Watt is in fact cut from Pittsburgh. Now, our next guy on this list is Joe Schobert, who would save the Steelers Joe Haeg, who would save the Steelers $2.6 million on the roster. There's a lot of Joes going around Pittsburgh. Now, I do think that, as we said, the O-line has to get improved. I do think Joe Haeg would probably be one of the guys I wouldn't love to see the Steelers cut, but they need to make moves for the offensive line during this offseason. And now we've got to figure out how that is. Should they go with rookies, get some guys in the draft? Well, we saw how that kind of worked last year. It didn't work fantastic because they're still adjusting from college to the NFL. I'd really like to see a blockbuster trade during the offseason and get a really dominant offensive lineman. We can, do a video on that in the future on offensive lineman targets. But the last guy we have on the list of players who could get cut is Stephon Tuitt, who would save the Steelers $9.05 million if they were to cut him after June 1st. Now, Stephon Tuitt, I know many of you may have forgotten about him. It all depends on what's going on with his health. So he didn't play in 2021 due to, his own injuries, health, heard he gained some weight. But ultimately, I think a lot of it had to do with the tragic passing of his brother during the offseason. So Stephon Tuitt had a lot going on mentally, physically, everything. So we don't know if Tuitt's even going to want to be back in the league, if he's even training for that. But again, when you take a year off, you don't know what kind of player you're going to have back on your roster after they miss some time. But Stephon Tuitt in 2020 was very, very important to this Pittsburgh Steelers team. He had 45 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, and 11 sacks. So if he's healthy and if he's ready to play, I'd say he's worth paying. I do think Tuitt made a big difference to the Steelers roster back in 2020. If they feel the same about him now in 2022, you keep him, in my opinion. Though if there is that kind of inconsistency, you don't know whether or not he's going to be up for it, I do think it's time to probably get rid of Tuitt. Now we are going to switch over from players to coaches. Guys, do you remember Mike Munchak? Is he going to be back in Pittsburgh? The Broncos are hiring Hackett as the head coach, which means that most likely a lot of the position coaches will not be around in Denver. I do think that Mike Munchak proved himself in Pittsburgh back whenever he was with the team. Now, unfortunately, he left Pittsburgh to go to Denver. He pretty much said he went there for his family. He had daughter, I think granddaughter, that lived close to Denver, but we don't know what's going to happen with his job over in Denver. Now, we talk about the offensive line needing some help. I think that if you brought back Munchak, he could help out. I think him and Mike Tomlin, clearly they work well together. They've known each other for a while. I'd love to see him back in Pittsburgh. So I'll ask you guys this. If you would like Mike Munchak back in the Steelers locker room, go ahead and like this video. And of course, Steelers Talk is going to be keeping you guys updated all off season long. And thank you guys again for watching us all season. I promise the videos will not stop, and you can always go check out my social if you want to stay up to date on what's going on.